Attribution. This is something I've thought about and fought about for years at a bunch of different companies with a bunch of different people across a bunch of different verticals. And I guess this is going to sound extremely vain, but I firmly believe that most people and most companies are missing the point about why attribution even matters, let alone how to do it. And so, but I think to understand how to properly do it, in my opinion, you have to align on why attribution even matters. So let's start with that. Actually, let's start with what it shouldn't be used for and why, the things it doesn't matter for. Attribution absolutely should not be used just to make decks for the sake of decks. That's a waste of everyone's time, kind of up and down the board, and it doesn't actually provide value, right? Like if you're reporting to a non-marketer about and trying to say like Facebook drove this many, Google drove this many, podcast drove this many, is that really providing tangible value for them to go forward and do a better job in whatever their role is? No, it's not, unless their job is just to manage you and to prioritize your time and hiring, in which case there are other ways we can think about how to prioritize time and hires. Second, it should not be used for performance reviews or employee evaluation, right? Like to say we're giving this person a raise and not this person a raise, or this person's getting promoted because they drove X more conversions, sort of misses the point, right? Like the deck is already stacked against some people and for other people, depending on their channels, depending on the attribution model and the approach you select. And it really doesn't make sense. So that one, let's cut that out. And then oversimplifying reality by trying to build a, quote, source of truth. The reality is that there is no clear truth, right? Way too much is unmeasurable, period. You can't measure me talking to friends. You don't know how many people I've told about it or have told me about it. You can't, what if I saw a box in the trash? What if I saw somebody else carrying a bag, right? Like there is no measurement you're putting forward for that sort of thing. So much is untrackable. So all of those things I just listed. But like if it's non-digital or doesn't have some sort of digital touch or human to human touch, right? You could have an event and you could measure the attendees of an event and how many converted or something like that. But again, things like seeing it on the street, seeing a famous person wearing it, hearing about it, not trackable. And then even if it is trackable, the quote unquote truth can be hidden, right? So let's say I click on an email and buy, but I only clicked on that email. I went back through, I searched my inbox because a friend told me that they bought it and they loved it. Or, did the email drive that, or was that word of mouth? The last click would tell you it was an email. If you look at just a simple, we sent an email and Sean opened it within a time frame, that would say that it was, but really it was the person, right? Let's say I didn't need your product before, but something changed and now I do. Did the ad that I see convert me, or my branded Google search? Like this is a shoe of mine, right? Yesterday I was riding my bike and this happened. Yesterday morning, I was not in the market to buy new biking shoes. No amount of ads were going to convert me. No amount of emails were going to convert me. Wasn't going to happen. My shoe broke, and now I am actively searching for things, right? That's how is understanding which thing I clicked on going to help you make more shoes break? So I think if it's an unsolvable problem, should it be ignored? Should you even worry about attribution? Yes, you should worry about it. No, it shouldn't be ignored. Attribution is massively important, but the difference of what I'm proposing is that it's not about what's already happened. It's not about scoring your channels. There are reasons to do that, but the purpose of attribution is forward looking, right? We aren't actually concerned about did Google drive 10 or 20? The purpose of attribution modeling and analysis is to figure out where you should spend the next dollar, where you should spend the next hour of your time, right? And so to do that, we do look at past performance because that is the best indicator of future performance, right? Otherwise, we're kind of going into it off of benchmarks and word of mouth and gut feel. So we have this data, we should model it, we should try and put together some sort of understanding of, hey, this is where these channels fit in and these tactics, this is where these channels and tactics fit in. Are these things working? Are these things working? Is this set of ads or this campaign working better than this? All of those things have merit in and of themselves, and they tie in with attribution. But the purpose of attribution is to understand where you should spend your next dollar. And so the right way to do that, you can, some people swear by last click, some people by first click, some people by post-purchase surveys, media mix models. You can do time decay attribution. You can do even distribution across touch points. You can do first and last. There's a ton of ways you can model this out. And the sick reality is that the truth is somewhere in the middle of those, right? Like all of those are functionally true. If you look at first click attribution, that's telling you about the first time someone came to your site, and therefore one of the earlier touch points, especially if it's a long buyer journey. So just because they didn't convert from that, should you no longer invest in early awareness channels? No, of course not. Especially if it's a long buying journey, you need to you should double down there probably. Last click attribution will tell us what converted, but that's going to be way overly weighted towards things like branded search. So should that you just put all your ad spend into your own branded search terms? No, that's obviously absurd. And so, I think the truth is somewhere in the middle of a media mix model, a post-purchase survey, and then click tracking. And the more things you can add in, the better. And so that's kind of the way I've thought about it is, I've tried calling it a few different things, from like a three-legged stool to just triangulation. But the more methodologies you can incorporate for attribution, you'll start to figure out where they're overlapping, and that's sort of the sweet spot, right? And so again, if the goal is to figure out what to do next, you certainly shouldn't just divest from things that have driven last click just because now the priority is earlier awareness. You still need to convert those, right? And so if you divide things into demand creation versus demand capture, that's one methodology for figuring out your channel split. You can figure out touches and how many channels touched each person, and that can lead you towards a total spend that you need for each person. You can start to figure out how much each of these contribute from a value perspective, but also from a cost perspective, right? So if you need, on average, it seems like it takes 5 site visits for someone to convert, and you have a target CAC of $50, any channel that has an average cost per click or cost per behavior that you need greater than $10 is disproportionately expensive across that, right? And so you need to start to figure out kind of how much you're willing to pay, and then you can start to say, hey, we can't actually afford this channel because it will bust our CAC. So that's it. I mean, I think, the simpler your media mix is, the simpler your attribution solutions can be, right? If you are just running ads on Meta, you can probably do a combination. Like I would still probably do a post-purchase survey, because I think you're going to hear interesting things about who is organically talking about your product. How much is word of mouth really factoring in? And then of course you'll have, they'll tell you Meta or Instagram or Facebook, and that's the other piece, is you can understand which of those channels, whether it's Instagram or Facebook or WhatsApp. Then I think, as you add more channels, you need to add more complexity, and that's where, once you start to have 2 ad channels, 3 ad channels, you probably can't rely on platform reporting anymore, because they are isolated and seeing themselves. And again, it's not that they are inherently lying, right? Someone saw the ad and within the attribution window, they converted. The question is like, should they get credit for that conversion? But according to the attribution model you set up in Meta or you set up in Google, they fit the criteria, and so that would count in the platform. But you're gonna, if you add up all of your platform conversions, you probably will have more than you will actual sales, and so it just adds complexity, and that's when you start to add in, a media mix model, or you start to add in geo holdout tests, and so there's simple ways to do it, and there's complex ways to do it, and in general, I think we as humans crave complexity sometimes because it feels like we're getting something way more robust and valuable. But if we remember the purpose of this, of where what we're trying to understand is just where should I spend my time and effort and money, then let's start with simple. Otherwise, you're putting that money towards complex attribution when it doesn't need to be that complex. You're overcomplicating a problem. So start with the surveys, start with platform reporting, add in some sort of click analytics, and ideally you can kind of flip-flop back and forth between first and last touch, and that alone will give you a pretty impressive indicator of kind of where to spread your time and money. As you ramp up in spend and channels, start to bring in some offline or some things that are harder to measure, maybe a media mix model is great for you. But again, remember what you're trying to solve for. That's it. Go get them.